Hi guys, it's Sabrina and I'm here to show you how I make these mini frogs. It's very beginner friendly and it's also no-sew, so you don't have to worry about sewing on the eyes or arms. You're going to be doing that while you're crocheting the frog body. The materials you'll need to make your frog is some worsted weight yarn in the colors green and cream. You'll need a crochet hook. I like to use this 2.75mm hook from Clover. You'll need some black embroidery thread to embroider the mouth on. And you'll need some yarn and sewing needles. I like to use this giant sewing needle for my yarn and this tiny one for the embroidery thread. You'll also need some safety eyes and glue. I got these 3mm safety eyes off of Amazon, and I like to use this glue from Daiso to attach my safety eyes to my pieces. You'll need some scissors to cut your work. And you'll also need a stitch marker. Sometimes if I don't have any stitch markers laying around, I like to just use a colored paper clip. You can easily get these at the dollar store. And lastly, if you want to make your frog into a keychain like I have, I made this little frog for my boyfriend, you'll need some jump rings. I got these off of Amazon as well. Oh, and you'll need some stuffing to stuff your pieces. So let's begin. Okay, to start your mini frog plushie, you're gonna start by making 6 single crochets into a magic ring. There are plenty of tutorials on how to make a magic ring. I'm just gonna go straight into making the plush. Okay, so we have 6 stitches, and now we take the short tail and then we pull on it, and that makes our magic ring. So we have 6 single crochets into the ring. Now for round 2, we're gonna mark our first stitch. So the loop that's on our hook is gonna be our first stitch. So that's where I like to put the stitch marker in. Okay, so for round 2, we're just gonna do increases in every stitch around. So we're gonna have a total stitch count of 12. So we're gonna do 1, 2. Okay, so we just finished round 2, and before we go on to round 3, I like to cut this remaining yarn tail off, but before I cut it off, I like to double knot it behind my magic ring, just so the hole in the middle doesn't get any loose. It doesn't kind of open up. So I like to double knot it. So I did 1 knot. And now I'm gonna do another knot. And there you go. There's a knot. So I like to take my scissors and cut my yarn off. Oops. And now we can continue on to round 3. So like round 2, I like to take my stitch marker and put it onto the loop that's on my hook to start round 3. So for round 3 is where we're gonna make the eyes of the frog. So we're gonna do a single crochet and then an increase, and then we're gonna do a bobble stitch, and then we'll do an increase, and then we're gonna repeat a sequence of a single crochet and increase. We're gonna repeat that sequence twice, and then we're gonna do another bobble stitch, and then we'll increase, and then do one single crochet, and then an increase. We should have a total stitch count of 18. So for round 1, or round 3, we're gonna do a single crochet, and then we're gonna do an increase in the next stitch. And now we're gonna do a bobble stitch. If it's too hard to do a bobble stitch, you could just do a 4 double crochet cluster, which is basically one less double crochet than a bobble stitch. But this is how I do a bobble stitch. So you yarn over, you go into the stitch, yarn over and pull through. So you have 3 loops on your hook. Now we yarn over and pull through the first 2 loops. So now we have 2 loops. Now we yarn over and go into the same stitch that we just went into. So now we have 4 loops on our hook. Now we're going to yarn over and pull through the first 2 loops. And now we have 3 loops on our hook. Now we're going to yarn over and go into the same stitch we just went into. And now we have 4 loops. You're going to repeat that sequence of yarning over, going into the same stitch, and then yarning over and pulling through the first 2 loops. You're going to repeat that until you have 6 loops on your hook. So we're going to do this 2 more times. So yarn over, go into the middle, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, and pull through the first 2 loops. If it's too hard to do this 6 times, you could just stop when you have 5 loops on your hook. So, there you go. So you have 5. If it's too hard to do 6 loops, you could just stop here and yarn over and pull through all the loops. But I like to go into the stitch one more time. It may be a little difficult, but it is doable. So yarning over, pulling through, yarning over, and pulling through the first 2 loops. So we have our 6 loops. Now we're going to yarn over and pull through all of them. Okay. Now, it might look like the stitch is covered, so you might want to pull this back a little, and you can see the next stitch is right there. So now in the next stitch, we're going to do an increase. So might be a little hard to get into the stitch, but you can do it. I believe in you. So we do 1 single crochet, and we go back into the same stitch and do another single crochet. So we now have an increase. And also, if the eyeball is a little warped in this way, you could take a stick, whatever stick you have. I use this stuffing wooden dowel I have, and you can like go inside the eye and kind of shape it and make sure it pokes out more. So it's more rounded like that. So you can see that's our first eyeball forming, and you'll make another one soon. So we go in to our work. Now we're gonna do a sequence of a single crochet and an increase. So we do 1 single crochet and then an increase, and then we repeat that sequence of a single crochet and increase. So for the next stitch, we're going to do a bobble stitch. So we yarn over, insert the hook into the stitch, pull through, yarn over, pull through the first 2 loops, and you're going to repeat that sequence until you have 6 total loops on your hook. So 3, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, and pull through the first 2 loops. Now we have 4, yarn over, go into the stitch. Might be getting a little bit harder to go into that stitch. Now we have 5, and now we do 1 more double crochet into the stitch, yarn over, pull through. You could just stop at 5 loops like I said instead of going for 6, but I like to make my eyes as poofy as possible. So we have 6 loops on our hook, yarn over, and pull through all the loops. Like I said, make sure you pull onto that bobble stitch to make sure you can see the next stitch. You should have 3 single crochet stitches left. So now onto the next stitch, we're going to do an increase again. So go into the next stitch, yarn over, pull through, and we do another increase, or another stitch into the increase stitch. So now we have 2 loops, 2 single crochets. Now in the next stitch, we're going to just do 1 single crochet. And then in the last stitch, we're going to do an increase. Okay, we got through the hardest part of the frog. So I'm going to pull through, and I'm going to make sure my eyeball is pushed out as much as possible so it can be as round and it can stand out as much as it can. Take your wooden dowel, adjust it, and now you have your frog eyes. Okay, so for round 4, we're gonna do an increase round. We're gonna do a single crochet and then increase, and then repeat a sequence of 2 single crochets and then an increase 5 times, and then do a single crochet in the last stitch. You should have a stitch count of 24. So next stitch, we're gonna do 1 single crochet, and then in the next we're going to do an increase. And now we're just going to do 2 single crochets and then an increase. So we did 1. Now you might need to move your piece forward a bit up so you can see the next stitch. Should be right here. And into the next stitch, we're going to increase. And now in the next stitch, we're going to do 2 single crochets, the next 2 stitches, then increase. You're going to repeat that sequence 5 times, 2 single crochets, and then an increase. You're going to do that 5 times. Okay, so now we're on to our last stitch. We're going to do 1 single crochet to finish our 4th round. Okay, so we finished our 4th round, Now for round 5, we're just going to repeat a sequence of 3 single crochets and then an increase 6 times. So we're going to repeat that sequence 6 times to have a total stitch count of 30. So we got 1, 2, 'kay, just finished the last increase of round 5. Now for round 6 is when we're going to start changing colors. So for round 5, we're going to start with green yarn for 6 single crochets, and then we're going to do a partial bobble stitch, and then we're going to do 5 single crochets, and then we're going to switch yarn colors to our cream yarn, and we're going to single crochet 5, and then we're going to switch back to our green yarn for the next 4 single crochets, and then we're going to do another bobble stitch, a partial bobble stitch, and then we're going to do 8 single crochets to finish the round. We should still have a total stitch count of 30. So we're going to do 6 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 6. And now we're going to do a partial bobble stitch, which is basically like the bobble stitch we did in the 3rd round, except we're going to just go up to 4 loops on our hook. So yarn over, pull through. We have 3 loops on our hook. Yarn over and pull through the first 2 loops. Go into the same stitch again, yarn over, pull through. We have 4 loops. Yarn over and pull through the first 2. And then finally yarn over, go into the same stitch, yarn over, pull through, and then yarn over, pull through the first 2, and now we have 4 loops on our hook. Now we can yarn over and pull through all 4 loops. And there we go. So you might need to go from the inside and poke it out just a little bit. And now make sure the bobble stitch isn't covering the next stitch. Now we're going to single crochet into the next 5 stitches. So we're going to make 5 more single crochets, but before you finish the 5th single crochet, we're going to change colors. So I'll show you how to do that. So we have 1 single crochet, 2, 3, 4, and then the 5th one. Before you complete the 5th stitch, instead of yarning over with the green yarn, we're going to take our cream yarn and yarn over these 2 loops with the cream yarn. So take your cream yarn, hook it onto your crochet hook, and pull through the 2 loops with the cream yarn. And now you've changed colors. So we're not going to cut the long green tail because we're going to switch back to it in the next couple of stitches. So now we have our cream yarn on our hook, and now we're going to single crochet 5. So we're going to make 5 single crochets in our cream yarn. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4. So So we got 4. And now in the 5th one, we're going to do the same thing. Instead of yarning over with the cream yarn, we're going to switch back to our green yarn that we have. So we still have this tail. We're going to bring it to our 2 loops, pull this to the back, and we're going to yarn over with our green yarn. So yarn over and pull through. You might want to take the remaining cream yarn tail and pulling it, tightening it so the stitch remains tight like the rest of the other cream stitches. Now we're going to do 4 single crochets into the next 4 loops, 4 stitches. So we did 1, 2, 3, 4. So we did that. And now in the next stitch, we're going to do another partial bobble. So yarn over, insert your hook into the next stitch. Oops. Make sure I did that. Nope. Did that in the wrong stitch. So yarn over, pull through, yarn over and pull through the first 2 loops. Again, yarn over, go into the same stitch we just went into, yarn over, pull through. You should have 4 loops on your hook. Yarn over, pull through the first 2 loops, yarn over, go into the same stitch you just went into, yarn over, pull through. You should have 5 loops on your hook. Yarn over and pull through the first 2. And now we have 4 loops on our hook. So now we're going to yarn over and pull through all 4 loops. So, yeah, okay. So we pulled through all 4 loops. Now making sure the bobble stitch isn't covering the next remaining stitches. Now we're just going to do 8 single crochets to finish the round. So go into the next stitch, yarn over, and I'm going to take my wooden dowel and make sure this stitch pops out like it should to mimic the arms of the frog. I should do that with the first bobble stitch we did too. First partial bobble, I should say. Okay, so there's our little arms. Okay, so we did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So we just finished our 6th round and we finished making the little arms. Now for rounds 7 through 9, we're just going to do 11 single crochets with green yarn and then switch to our cream yarn and do 7 single crochets. And then we're going to switch back to our green yarn and just finish the round with 12 single crochets. We're going to repeat that for 3 rounds. And you should still have a total stitch count of 30. So mark our first stitch. And now we're going to do 11 single crochets with our green yarn. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and before we finish our 11th stitch, we're going to switch to the cream yarn that we have. So here's the long green cream tail. You shouldn't have cut this off, you should keep it long. and yarn over and finish the 11th round with our cream yarn on our crochet hook. Make sure you pull onto the remaining long green yarn tail to tighten the stitch. And now in cream yarn, we're going to single crochet 7. So we're going to yarn over, pull through, so that's 1 single crochet, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and before we finish the 7th stitch, so we're going to go into our 7th stitch, yarn over, pull through, and now we're going to finish the single crochet with our remaining green yarn tail. So we're going to switch it, yarn over, pull through. Like I said, don't cut the cream yarn tail. We're still going to need it for the remaining couple rounds. So now we're going to finish the 7th round with 12 single crochets in green yarn. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Okay, so we finished the 7th round, and here's what our frog body is looking like so far. So for the next 8th and 9th rounds, we're gonna repeat round 7. So I'm gonna do that off camera. So I'll meet you back after I finish the 9th round. Okay, so I finished round 9, and this is what our frog body is looking like. So for round 10, this is going to be the final round of our cream yarn transition. So for round 10, we're going to do 12 single crochets in our green yarn, and then we're going to do 6 single crochets in our cream yarn, and then we're going to finish the round with 12 single crochets in our green yarn. We should still have a total stitch count of 30. So we're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and now for the 12th stitch, we're going to switch to our cream yarn. So in the 12th single crochet, yarn over, pull through, and finish the single crochet with our cream yarn. So we're going to yarn over with our cream yarn and pull through the 12th single crochet. So now we're going to single crochet 6 more with our cream yarn. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and in our 6th stitch we're going to yarn over but finish off the single crochet with our cream yarn, or finish the single crochet with our green yarn, sorry. So yarn over, pull through, and now we're going to finish the row with 12 single crochets in our green yarn. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. So now we finished our round 10. Now we can cut the remaining cream yarn tail. So take our scissors and cut a decent sized yarn tail. So cut. And now what I like to do is, if my first cream yarn tail that I have from the first time we transitioned to our cream yarn, I like to tie it with this yarn tail that we just cut. So I like to tie it together. I like to double knot it. So tie and then pull slightly like this, and then double knot it just to secure the yarns. Yeah, like that. And you can trim the remaining yarn tails. I like to do that. Or you could just use it as stuffing as well. Like just shove it into the frog body. Okay, so for round 11, we're going to do a decrease round, and we're going to make the legs of the frog. So with the decreases, I like to use an invisible decrease most of the time, but for this round, it's better to just do the regular decrease instead of the invisible decrease, because it's just much easier that way, especially when we're making the legs. So for round 11, we're going to do 3 single crochets and then a regular decrease. And then we're going to do 2 single crochets, and then we're going to do a partial bobble, and then we're going to decrease, and then we're going to do 3 single crochets and a decrease. We're going to repeat that sequence twice. Then we're going to do a single crochet, and then a partial bobble, and then a single crochet, and then a decrease. And then finally, we're going to do 3 single crochets and then a decrease. You should have a total stitch count of 24. So, for round 11, we're going to do 3 single crochets. So here's our second. Now our third. And like I said, now we're going to do a decrease, but we're just going to do a regular decrease. So go into the stitch, next stitch, yarn over, pull through, and now go into the next stitch again, yarn over, pull through. You should have 3 loops, yarn over, and pull through all 3 loops. There we go. And now we're going to do 2 single crochets. And now we're going to do a partial bobble stitch. Like the arms, we're going to yarn over, insert our hook into the stitch, yarn over, pull through. You should have 3 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through. And now we're going to yarn over again, insert our hook into the same stitch we just went into, yarn over, pull through, and then yarn over and pull through the first 2 loops. Now we have 3 loops. Now we're going to do this one more time. Yarn over, insert your hook to the stitch, yarn over and pull through. Now we have 5 loops on our hook. Now we're going to yarn over and pull through the first 2 loops, like so. Now we're going to yarn over and pull through all 4 loops. Okay, like so. Now, like the arms, you want to make sure you push out this stitch. So make sure you can use maybe like a pencil or so. If you don't have a wooden dowel, just poke out the legs. Okay, And now we're going to do a decrease. We're going to do a regular decrease, so into the next stitch, yarn over, pull through. Now we're going to go into the next stitch, yarn over, pull through. And now we're going to yarn over and pull through all 3 loops. Oops, keep going out of frame. Now we're going to repeat the sequence of 3 single crochets and decrease twice. So now we're going to go into the next stitch and single crochet. 1, 2, 3. Now we're going to do a regular decrease again. So yarn over, pull through. Now you have 2 loops. Go into the next stitch, yarn over, pull through. Now you have 3 loops. Yarn over and pull through all 3 loops. Now we're going to repeat the sequence again. So in the next stitch, do 3, or just do a single crochet, and then another one, and then a third one, and then we're going to do a regular decrease, like so, and then we're going to do 1 more single crochet. And now we're going to do a partial bobble again. So yarn over, insert the hook, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through the first 2 loops, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through the first 2 loops, yarn over for the last time, insert your hook into the same stitch, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through the first 2 loops. Now we have 4 loops again, and now we yarn over and pull through all 4 loops. Now in the next stitch, we're going to do a single crochet, like so, and now we're going to do a decrease again, like so, like a regular decrease. And now in the remaining 5 stitches, we're just going to do 3 single crochets and then a decrease. Okay, so we finished our 11th round. Now I'm going to take our wooden dowel again and poke out the legs again, just to double check or just to make sure that they pop out like they should. Okay, so we have our arms and legs and eyes. Now to finish off the piece, we have 2 more rounds left. For round 12, we're going to decrease all the way around, so we're going to make 12 decreases to have a total stitch count of 12. And for this round, I like to use invisible decreases just to, in my opinion, invisible decreases look a lot better and it's more doable in this round. So I like to do invisible decreases. So here's how you do an invisible decrease. So you go into the front loop of the next stitch, and then you go into the front loop of the next stitch as well. So you have 2 loops, yarn over, and pull through all the loops on your hook right now. So all 2 loops, and then yarn over and pull through both loops. So that's your invisible decrease. I'll do it again. So go into the front loop of your hook of the next stitch, and into the front loop of the following stitch. Yarn over, pull through the first 2 loops on your hook. And now you have 2 remaining loops. Yarn over and pull through those 2 loops. So you have an invisible decrease. We're just going to do invisible decreases all the way around our frog for the 12th round. up on the final decrease. So we're going to insert our hook, yarn over both loops, both front loops, yarn over, pull through, and then yarn over and pull through both loops. Okay, so we're almost done with our frog. Now we got to use our stuffing to stuff the body. Pull some stuffing, and now we're going to stuff the body of our frog. So this is how much I'm going to stuff it for now. Now we're going to go on to the final, last round, round 13, and we're just going to decrease all the way around again. So we're going to have a total stitch count of 6. So we finished the final round. Now we're gonna close off the hole. So I like to slip stitch into the first stitch we have after I take out my stitch marker, pull through and cut the remaining tail. You want to have a not super long yarn tail since we're just closing the yarn hole. Just cut and pull through, and I like to go in to the remaining circle and back into the first stitch, and I like to bring the yarn tail into the middle hole that we have, like so. Okay, so if you really want to make your frog a little more plumpy, if you still want to continue stuffing, you can use a wooden dowel to help. I just got this wooden dowel from the stuffing bag I got at my craft store. Just pretty handy, honestly. I use this wooden dowel quite a bit. Okay. Now our frog is pretty much complete. Now we can use our yarn tail to close off the hole. So take the yarn tail we have and our yarn hook or yarn needle, pull through, and now we can close off the hole. I like to just go through the front loops of the final round all the way around. So we got to the first loop, now the front loop of the next, and now front loop of the third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and now we can just pull onto our yarn tail, and now we have a closed hole. And now our frog body is done. So I like to just go back into the hole and just go out into a random opening in our frog, pull through, and I like to just tie it off. So tie it. I like to double knot it. So we now have a little knot, and I like to go into the same hole I just went out of and go into another random hole, pull out, and we can just cut the remaining yarn tail. And now our frog body is complete. Okay, Okay, so now we're gonna go on to the facial features. I like to take my 3mm safety eyes and carefully figure out where I want to place my safety eyes into the eyes of the frog. So just in a general spot, I like to stick it in. It might be a little difficult to stick it in, but you'll be able to stick it in like so. Kind of generally figure out where you want to place these safety eyes. Kind of something like this. And I like to take out my safety eyes and use some of my glue to secure it. I'll go do that off camera. Okay, so I secured the safety eyes. Now we're gonna make the mouth. So take your black embroidery thread and thread it through your embroidery thread or embroidery needle and make a knot at the end of your yarn or thread. So how I like to make the mouth is by going through a random hole and going out into the middle of this round, the third round. So normally you would like to go into a hole, but for me, I like to go into the middle of my third round, just in a very random spot, and pull through. It might be a little hard, but you can do it. Make sure your yarn tail is inside the frog body. So now we have that. Now we can go into the center hole of the frog. So the center hole, and go out into a random hole again. Barely. So we're trying to make a little V mouth like this. So kind of go out to a random spot and over, pull through. Make sure your yarn is straightened up. Sometimes it might be a little curved and wonky like this. I like to just make sure the thread is out like this, and make sure I pull onto my thread more tightly. Make sure there's no wrinkles in the mouth. And then I like to go back into the middle hole that we just went into and go out to random hole like so. Make sure you pull onto the thread so the mouth is secure like that. And now we made a little mouth like on this guy. Make sure this thread is, sometimes I like to kind of use my needle to shape the mouth a little, as much as I can, kind of like that. So now I like to tie off my embroidery thread by making a knot, just like how I finish off my yarn tails on the body. So I make a little knot. I go into the same hole that I just came out of, so into this hole, and go out through a random hole on the frog body. And make sure you pull on it so the knot goes into the body. And now you can cut your embroidery thread like so. So now your little frog is done. Your no-sew frog. So if you like this tutorial, please like and share. And please subscribe to my YouTube channel. I'll be posting some free crochet patterns. And if you do make your own mini frog on Instagram, you can tag me using my user Stitching with Sab, and I love to share your work. You can honestly experiment with any kind of yarn you have. Like I used some velvet yarn to make this purple frog, as well as this little turquoise frog. And you could even get thicker yarn to make a giant frog like this. So honestly, just experiment as much as you can. So if you like this tutorial, please support my work by liking and sharing this video, and please subscribe to my YouTube channel. I love to share all my tutorials with you as much as I can. So thanks.